Welcome to Podnutz Daily for December 16th, 2008. I think it's episode number 122. I've been getting myself confused last couple episodes here, them being so sporadic and all, which I will address later, and also I'll address the Podnutz episodes that aren't up on the RSS feed yet. First, let's talk about some computer repair stuff. I had a Sony Vaio in the shop. Don't know the exact model number. It was a very thin, like petite one, like, you know, the real expensive ones that I think are overpriced. But anyway, I had it in the shop. A customer brought it in, and it was not powering up at all. I've talked about this in the past a little bit. This is not the one that really gave me a headache, but this is another Vaio that gave me some problems. He brought it in. It wasn't powering up, and I thought it was the motherboard. So I went on eBay looking for a motherboard. And so hang on one sec, guys. Okay, we're good. And since some Vaio motherboards are hard to get. Well, anyway, I did find a Vaio that somebody was selling, not just the motherboard. They were selling the whole computer, but it had a broken screen. And it was an auction, so it was at a good price at the auction at that time. I was going to hold out and see if I could get that whole Vaio, take the motherboard out, put it in the customer's machine. Then I'd have a bunch of Vaio parts if I needed them for anything. So I bought the entire machine with the broken screen. I got it for like $170 or something like that. And I took that, so I got it shipped to me, took the motherboard out of the one I got shipped, and put it into the customer's machine. Customer had a good screen, and I thought everything else on the computer was okay. Well, what happened was, after I put the motherboard in the new machine, I started up the machine, everything booted up fine, and that's great. But there was no network adapter, no Ethernet port, and there was also no sound. And I talked about this in the past. I didn't know why that was happening. Everything should be on the motherboard. Well, I come to realize, you know, the customer took it home, and then he realized it, and then he brought it back to me, and I'm like, that's how I realized it. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even see that. Now I'm stuck with a motherboard that has no network Ethernet support and no sound, and he wants to listen to the news and stuff like that on his computer. So I emailed the guy who sent me the motherboard, and I said, look, I know you said this computer was sold as is, but the network card and the sound card don't work. And he claimed that they were. And so I went back and forth with him for a couple emails, and then finally I sat down again. I looked at this in a new unit at a time, and I looked at the computer. There's actually a separate card, a very small little card that the Ethernet port connects into, and then that connects to the motherboard. That port was bad. That card was bad. And then in addition to that, for sound, there's a little card that branches off of the motherboard where you plug your headphones in. Apparently that little board isn't just for headphones, it's the sound card as well. The sound hardware is on that card, and that was bad as well. So actually, in the customer's original machine, it wasn't just his motherboard that was bad. It was the separate circuit board that was an Ethernet port, that had an Ethernet port, and it was also the separate circuit board that had sound circuitry on it. So there was 3 parts that were bad. So luckily, I bought this entire machine from the eBay sale. So I had a spare Ethernet board, and I had a spare sound card. I put them in the new machine. Everything worked fine. So through a lot of confusion, I finally got that squared away and that done. I guess what's the moral of the story here? I guess there really is none. The moral of the story would have been, don't buy used parts. Don't buy anything on eBay that says sold as is if you're not sure about it. But it actually worked out in my favor because I had the extra parts that I needed. So I guess the moral of the story is, instead of just buying the part that you need when you're doing buying parts for computers and doing repairs, see if you could get, for the same amount of money or less, a better deal where you're getting more parts for the price you would just normally pay for a motherboard. If I bought that motherboard separate, I would pay over $200. Since I bought it on an auction on eBay and I got the whole machine with it, with a cracked screen, mind you, but that's fine. I got the case, I got the keyboard, I got all the other components. Since I did it that way, I got all those extra parts plus the motherboard for cheaper than I would have if I just got the motherboard. So I guess it worked out in the end. Another machine I had today. I'm going to need your guys' help on this, by the way, I think, unless I could figure it out tomorrow. But if you got any emails you could send me today about this, let me know. Well, here's the thing. This particular computer, it would start up, it would just get into the boot process, then it would reboot. So if that happened, I would like to run fix boot usually in that case and see if I could fix the boot sector. I thought it would be the boot sector that was bad. So I put in a Windows XP disk to boot into the recovery console so I could run fix boot. Well, I put in the XP disk, I start the setup process. It gets about 4 or 5 seconds into the startup process, you know, where it has the blue screen with the gray bar on the top or bottom, and it tries to load all the drivers. This is off of a Windows XP disk. If you throw a Windows XP disk and you boot from the disk, it gets about 5 seconds into that, and then it just freezes. Okay, so at this point, I'm thinking to myself, okay, with the hard drive, it's just rebooting. When I put a disk in, it just freezes. Or when I try to actually go load the recovery console, it just freezes. So I said, well, let me try the Ultimate Boot CD. I put the Ultimate Boot CD in, it booted all the way through, no problems at all, and I could actually work with the Ultimate Boot CD. So at this point, I'm trying to figure out, okay, if it can load the Ultimate Boot CD, I'm pretty sure the motherboard is okay, and I'm pretty sure the processor is okay. It's booting from a CD drive, so I'm not using the hard drive. So I don't know if the hard drive is good or not yet, but I know that the CD drive is good because I was able to use the Ultimate Boot CD. And so I asked myself, does the Ultimate Boot CD use RAM on the machine to run? I still don't know the answer to that. I guess it uses some. But anyway, I figured maybe the memory's bad, and that's why it's not getting past these certain points. I ran memtest 86, I think it is. It's off of the Ultimate Boot CD. I ran memtest, and the memory failed the test. I replaced the RAM, and then the computer booted up just fine. So it was actually the RAM that was bad, that was stopping it from booting into the recovery console, as well as stopping it from booting into Windows from the hard drive. It was the RAM. Once I switched the RAM out, everything was fine. Except, now when I start the computer up, Windows loads just fine. Everything is just peachy, you know what I mean? Everything loads fine, except as soon as I load Windows up, at the logon screen, I get this error. And the error is Windows Registry Recovery is the title of the window on the window. And then it says something along the lines of Windows had to recover a file from from a previous registry because this registry is corrupted or something like that. I got to find it. Guys, hang on a sec. Let me punch it up on Windows. I'll read you the exact error. Let me punch it up on the internet. I'll read you the exact error. It's on, let me do a Google search, Windows Registry Recovery. Okay, here it is. The title on the window is Windows Registry Recovery. The error is one of the